Do you like drinking beer in the garage with your friends on a Friday night and just talking about movies, music, pop culture in general? Well then, my friends, I have a great podcast for you to check out. It's called the 10 Cent Beer Night Podcast. My name is Ray. I am the host, and I set out to prove things beyond a shadow of a doubt every time I do one of these things. So let's hang out.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Deluxe Edition. I am your host, Casey Shearer. With me, as always, Ray, the podcaster.
Good afternoon.
How are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm feeling good today because we just did a great interview.
Really good interview. Really good interview with John Ross Bowie. He has a new book out, No Job for a Man. Check that out. John was on The Big Bang Theory and a show, Speechless. We didn't even get to talk about. This was such a great interview. John has already agreed to come back. It's just so good. I told John this right out in the beginning. I was not a fan of The Big Bang Theory, or I didn't even know who he was, before they reached out to us. And I mean, this was awesome. I'm like a big fan of his now.
Yeah, it's always fun because this one was exactly what I always say I want the interviews to feel like. It was like hanging out with somebody that you don't really know a lot about, like one of your friends, like you just met somebody and you hang out with them and they tell you all kinds of really cool shit. That was like what this was. Yeah,
this was really fun. Check it out. We're going to get into it right after the house cleaning. We are a part of the Deluxe Edition Network. You can find all of the other great shows over at deluxeeditionnetwork.com. And guess who the podcast of the month is this month, Ray?
Is it Horsing Around with the Red Horse guys?
Nope. I fucked up. I fucked up on the last recording because we record so early. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's Ray. Ray's the podcast of the month.
Yes, 10 Cent Beer Night Podcast is the podcast of the month in December. So if you're listening to this in January, it's not me anymore. Sorry.
Sorry. Where can people find you, Ray, while we're at
it? You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, 10 Cent Beer Night Podcast, all smushed together, real nice and tight. And you can find me on TeePublic, where I peddle my fucking wares endlessly trying to make a couple of goddamn nickels. But you know what's cool about TeePublic right now there, Casey, that you didn't even know? One of my designs is a bootleg deluxe edition shirt right now.
Oh, snap.
Yes, well, it will not be there very long because I'm going to move on to other podcasts on our deluxe edition network, and I'm going to bootleg their shit next.
Bootleg merch, I love it.
Yeah,
we'll have to get Turnpike James on again and talk about stolen merchandise.
Hell yeah, I've got my bootleg on the way.
And we're 1 week before Christmas, so if you order today, you'll there's I know you need your gifts out there. So I know our listeners haven't done any shopping yet. So go to TeePublic right now and order some of Ray's merch. It'll be there just in time.
Excellent.
And if you'd like to get any of our merchandise, you can go over to whatamaneuver.net/collections/deluxe-edition. If you'd like to find us on Instagram or Twitter, we are at Deluxe Edition Pod. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Deluxe Edition or join the YouTube channel. And I will send you the recording.
Hey, hold on. Whoa. You just said patreon.com Deluxe Edition. You left off the pod at the end.
Sorry.
You do that actually every week. I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
Well, I'm trying to get people to watch the show. Head over to YouTube and watch the shows, and you'll see the banner at the bottom where it says Deluxe Edition Pod. If you want to find the rest of the shows, head over to deluxeedition.show. And now, our chat with John Ross Bowie. JRB.
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
buddy.
Excellent. I feel like I'm yelling.
Now we can hear you fine.
Okay, good. Hello, guys. Hi. Nice
Can you
to
hear
be
us
here.
all right?
Yeah, just perfect.
Cool.
Great. So I got to start with this. John Ross Bowie.
That's correct.
Yeah, I've been practicing that all week.
Guys, this has been great. Thank you so much for having me.
So I have to know, why the middle name? Why do you use the middle name?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a couple of reasons. When I joined the Screen Actors Guild in 1999, there still is a British actor named of John Bowe, Bowe. And every time I saw his name in print, I did a double take. So I figured if I'm doing a double take at this guy's name, I should probably, I think everyone else will also. So there was no other John Bowie or Bowie in the Union. And then I kind of just like the rhythm of it. My father was very proud of having named me John Ross, for a very John was his father's name, and there was a half Native, half Scottish politician in the 1800s who led the Cherokee on the Trail of Tears, named John Ross. Look him up, and I'm named for him. We are not even remotely Cherokee. We are Scottish. But it was one of my dad's little, this isn't even in the book I just wrote. This is just a weird little thing my dad did. So I just sort of, because he had helped me join the Union by loaning me the money I needed, I figured the least I could do was honor him with all three names. Yeah. And then
Very
the Bowie, the Bowie is the proper Scottish pronunciation. I get a lot of flack for it, but I swear to God, it's Bowie, and I'm sticking to it.
See, I like it because if somebody doesn't do their homework and they're talking to you, they're going to fuck that name up every time.
They will fuck that name up every time.
Yep.
Very reliably, they will fuck that name up. Yeah. And in different ways too. Because you go, most Americans will say Bowie. And again, I don't get pissed off or anything. And a lot of times I won't even, if it's some morning guy in a market that I'm never going to visit, call me Bowie. I don't go with God. And then the chunks of the American South will say Bowie for Jim Bowie. But the second I go to the UK, they look at it, they say, "Hello, Mr. Bowie. What's your business here?" And it's great. I love it. I'm just here to have my name pronounced right for a few days. then I'm heading back.
Well, you mentioned the book. It's great, man. I finished it today, right before
cool.
Finished it this morning, actually, before wanted to finish it before this. Great book, man. I want to be honest with you. I have not finished a book in a long time.
Oh, okay.
And I finished this, and it's really good. I highly recommend this, man. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a few things I'm going to be honest about here. First time I've read a book in a long time.
Okay.
And before I guess it was your publicist, or I'm not sure who reached out for you to be on the show to promote this book, but I had never heard of you before. I was not a fan of the Big Bang Theory at all.
That's a great lead-in, Casey. Way to go!
Great, Case. This is going real well, Case. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't like your face.
Would you like to insult his family or something while you're at it?
Your kids are weird. Just keep digging, Case. You're doing great. This is good.
But
they don't all have to be Jimmy Fallon, but Jesus Christ, man, wow. I'm totally messing with you. Go ahead.
I know, brother. But I want to say, man, after reading this, or during the processes, I have become a big fan of yours, man. It was a really, really good book, man. And
that's
like,
fantastic. Thank you for
one
saying that.
one of my questions, when I started reading this, because of how good it was going to be if you had ever written anything else. But then I found out that you wrote a book about the movie Heathers.
I did. About 10, 12 years ago, I wrote a book that was part of a series. Hang on one second. About 12 years ago, I wrote a book that was part of a series of books called the Deep Focus series, which was a collection of short books about certain movies that don't usually get written about. So, you can absolutely get a book about Citizen Kane or Seven Samurai or The 400 Blows. But they were looking for films that maybe aren't considered to be classics or have a cult following or what have you. And I picked Heathers because it's near and dear to my heart for a bunch of reasons that are detailed in that book. But yeah, it was a good series, actually. It was Jonathan Lethem wrote a book about They Live, which I really recommend. A guy named Matthew Spector, who's a terrific writer, wrote a book about The Sting. A guy wrote a book about the original Death Wish, which was really good. It's a good series. You can still find them online. The ebooks are all still available. I think the print is out of print. But yeah, that was my first book.
Are you familiar with that movie, Ray? Heathers?
Heathers, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah,
I'm a little bit older than you are. I'm 50, so Heathers is right in my wheelhouse for what kind of movies I enjoy a lot.
Heathers came out while Ray and I were in high school.
Yeah,
and it's a hell of a high school movie.
Yeah.
It came out literally. I saw it the end of my senior year with the second consecutive Heather that I dated in high school. So it's just true. So it's near and dear to my heart, that film. And I've gotten to work with the director a couple of times since as an actor, which has been, a crazy full circle moment for me. I love that movie.
How does something like that work when you're writing a book about something like that someone owns the rights to and all that?
You're not necessarily, it's not like you're making a remake or you're doing a novelization. I was writing sort of an analysis of the film and sort of my personal history with it. So it's essentially, it comes under the heading of criticism, I guess. You don't need the rights to it. You're just writing a monograph. We had to clear some photos. Okay. Just to make a couple of visual points, but no, that's completely within your rights to write a book about a thing that you love. Cool. That's pretty easily done. Yeah.
Yeah, I became familiar with that movie. Are you familiar with Joe Bob Briggs?
Yeah, sure.
He has a show on Shudder, The Last Drive-In, and they played that during one of the seasons. Heathers.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, it was really cool because I had never seen it before. That. Like as it goes with a lot of these movies and things that we talk about on this podcast, I'm not familiar with them until I have to research them. But yeah, cool movie.
It's great, right? It's real good.
So can people find that book?
As I say, I think you can get an e-copy. You can get the e-book still. I'm pretty sure if you find a print copy, let me know because I'm running low. I think it was they were short runs. They were short runs. A little publishing house called Counterpoint put it out. But you can still find the ebook, I think. Yeah.
Cool. So what was your writing process like for this book? I noticed at the end of the book, you thank a lot of different publishers for, were these all stories that you had put out before or?
Some of them had come out some of them had been part of a one-man show that I did literally 20 plus years ago that was just focused on the time that I was in a punk band while working in corporate America and kind of, talking about that weird sort of duality that I had for a few years there. There were some things that were just sort of shows that I did or monologues that I did at shows like The Moth, but weren't actually The Moth, So storytelling shows here in LA. I had written for a long dead newspaper called the New York Press in New York. So yeah, there were a few people I had to thank who had sort of given my writing a chance in smaller bites. The book itself, as it exists, took a while for various reasons. I was working, I was busy. It came to me just as Speechless got picked up, and Speechless was a very busy 3 years there. And I put the book down for a little bit because I was having some mental health stuff that made it a little complicated to sit down and write about myself. I just kind of had the bandwidth to show up to be funny on my sitcom, and I had nothing else. I had absolutely nothing left in the tank. But I worked that stuff out and finished it early on in the pandemic. And this great little house in New York, Pegasus Books, decided they wanted to put it out into the world. Yeah. But it was a good process. I have a great agent named Todd Schuster who was really good at doing things like not telling me what to write, but just asking the right questions, Like, can I hear more about this character? Can you explain why this meant something to you? Just little, no pitches, no like, oh, you should say this, not ghostwriting in any sense, just a real like knowing the right directions in which to nudge me, which was really helpful.
You mentioned your punk, the punk band. Let's talk about that for a little bit because I want you and Ray to talk about this a little bit. You guys had to have. I can't believe you guys haven't crossed paths in all these years.
Well, we may have. Hang on. Ray, what's your last name?
Well, my stage name is Rhubarb, and
Okay.
I played in punk bands for a long time. I was a part of here in Cleveland, the Hostile Amish, which one of the better punk bands out of Cleveland, in my opinion. Mostly because I was a member, but
Sure,
that's
yeah.
just my opinion. But I believe you were in Egghead.
I was in Egghead. I can't believe I have to confess now to you. I have not heard of the Hostile Amish, but I've just Googled them, and I can't believe because here's the thing about me. I love a band with good shtick.
We had shtick for days.
Love a band with good shtick, and this is good shtick, and it's a victimless crime too. Because like, who's going to tell the Amish? Who's going to tell the Amish?
And if you do tell them, what are they going to do about it? They're pacifists.
What are they going to do about it?
Yeah.
This is great. I was talking about another band. Did you ever come east? Did you ever play Northeast at all?
Well, we're from Cleveland, so
Right.
They've been everywhere. They did a lot of their touring after I left, but I've been to New York and stuff like that. So,
Did you ever cross paths with a band from Boston called I think they're from Boston called the Upper Crust?
I know of them. I never got to meet them, but I know who they are. Yeah.
The Upper Crust had great shtick. The Upper Crust were dressed like 18th century fops and played just like big 70s arena rock. And their album was called Let Them Eat Rock. And they did the whole powdered wigs, ruffled things. Yeah. And this is where I really had to give it up for them. Chops for days. They could really fucking play, which was infuriating. It's like usually it's one or the other. Egghead tend to lean on the side of shtick. We were better at shtick than playing our instruments a lot of the time. But these guys they were the full package. And it was such a niche package, too. Like, I don't know who is looking for Little Lord Fauntleroy references in their arena rock, but they were great.
That's a big part of when you're a local band and you're just trying to make it and you're just trying to come up with something different. And the first thing you go to is the shtick. You're like, all right, what haven't we seen yet?
Yeah. I love that. Do you know you must know the Mummies?
Mm-hmm.
The Mummies are great.
That's a great gimmick.
Yeah.
You know what? What was it? About a year ago, you were on Punk Rock Karaoke. You did Suburban Home. That was I think it was about a year ago.
About 2 years ago, actually, at this point.
Something like that.
Year and a half, yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. And I love the Descendants. Milo's one of my all-time favorite singers.
Oh, 100%.
But
He's in the canon.
You did it in your own way, and it was really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. I might actually have been wearing this sweater, wearing this very Argyle sweater while I was doing Suburban Home. Yeah, I kind of figured I couldn't quite hit Milo's notes, so I thought I would do it like a tight ass suburban dad,
Yeah.
and which to some level I am, and I have my late uncle loaned me some golf clubs, so I used them for the video. That was fun, and I've never met the Descendants, but I got to meet all the punk rock karaoke guys. So, Stan from the Dickies and Greg from Circle Jerk. It was really, really fun to do that.
Yeah, because most of the guys that come on there, like I've seen Tony Hawk on there a couple of times, and he gives everything he has to try and sing those songs as best as he can.
Yeah.
And I love it, but the way you did it was totally original, and it was just different, man. It was really cool.
I appreciate that, Rhubarb. Thank you very much.
I watch that thing all the time, man. I love those videos.
They're great. I can't remember. There was one. God, I met her at Punk Rock Bowling too. There was one woman who did Give It Back by the Dickies, and she did it with like puppets. She had like all this production design that went into it. And it was cool to hear a woman sing that song anyway, because Leonard's voice is crazy high as it is. But she had like production value. And I was really impressed. I was really, really impressed by her. And then I loved the whole reason I got into it is because my buddy Will Wheaton did Police Truck with them.
Yeah.
And Will, who sells himself short, he's like, oh, I'm not really musical. I can't really carry a tune. He was great.
Yeah, he did really good on that, too. He was another one. I love when they bring in the actors to sing on those things, because then you get a sense for, like, the ones who actually know punk rock. Like, some of the guys come on, and you can tell they're reading the lyrics. Like, you can see their eyes go down to the paper.
Amazing. No,
like they don't even bother to learn the song. They're just like, yeah, I know this song.
To put it in acting terms, I have been off book on Suburban Home for some 30 years now. So that came pretty easily to me. Yeah, I had that one nicely memorized.
I kind of forgot that Ray's band was named the Amish. What was it called? The Hostile Amish.
Hostile Amish. Yeah.
So that actually brings me into one of my questions. Your first tour, John, as a punk band, led you to Honeybrook, Pennsylvania.
That's right. It did. That's right.
Dude, I grew up in Reading, Pennsylvania, which is
right nearby.
My grandparents actually lived in Morgantown and then lived in Honeybrook later.
Honeybrook is a suburb of Reading for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's not that far.
Crazy.
How in the hell did you get a gig in Honeybrook, Pennsylvania?
I know, right?
For a punk band. Like, where was it?
First off, it was probably the best show of the tour. It was the first night of the tour because we were based in New York City. So Honeybrook would have been like 2 hours, 2:15 from New York. And it was, if every show had gone that well, I wouldn't be talking to you fucking peasants right now. I'll tell you that. It was incredible. We were like rock stars for like 35 minutes up there. It was insane. But this is like 1996, right? So there's internet, but you check your email about twice a day. And there was sort of a loose network of promoters here and there. And I kind of drew out a map. I was like, I want to go south. For one thing, I was the guy in charge of booking the tour, which is a terrible idea. But I honestly was the most qualified to do it. But that's just bad news for the band. That's just a really low bar. But I wanted, like, we're going to go down as far south as we can and then come back up. And that's the plan. So let's look at, we played Jersey all the time. We always played Jersey. So I was like, let's see if we can get into Pennsylvania. And we looked, nobody was biting in Philly. But I found this promoter in, it would have been probably Maximum Rock and Roll's Book Your Own Fucking Life, which they used to put out every couple of years, which had a contact list for every promoter in the United States and elsewhere. And when I say promoter, I mean the guys who were like renting the VFW hall or the Amish Grange house or whatever it was. And it was, by the way, some sort of like weird Penn Dutch building that was probably at one point used to burn witches, but had been repurposed as sort of an all-purpose community center. And they rented a PA, and whatever band came the furthest got the largest chunk of the door, which was it was a punk rock house show for all intents and purposes. It was great. And we ended up in Honeybrook, and we killed. It went so well. It was so weird. We got a big chunk of the door. We met this great guy named Tom. You know how everyone there would just go by their first name and their band's last name? So I don't remember Tom's real last name. Martin, maybe? But we all called him, his band was called Third Year Freshman, which, chef's kiss. And so Tom, Third Year Freshman, was one of those punk guys with wealthy parents, and he had an RV, and he drove us back to his parents' house in the RV, which he called the bitch getter. And we stayed in his parents' elaborately finished basement. It was hilarious. But that's so crazy. You're the second, well, not the second, but I haven't met anyone from Honeybrook since I played Honeybrook. So congratulations. That's really exciting.
Yeah, well, close. I've been in Honeybrook. I worked in Honeybrook.
And am I crazy? Is there a town nearby called Blue? Is it actually
Blue Ball?
It is called Blue Ball. I'm not crazy. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. Is it? No, Blue Bell.
Blue Bell.
Wait,
but if you're driving, if you're doing 60 down the freeway or down the highway, you're gonna go past that and go, hang on, everyone, what did that say? There's that, and then right near Scranton, there's a town called Scott Run, and if you look at Scott Run really quickly, you're like, oh, that's Scrotum. We just passed a town called Scrotum.
Yeah. No, it is Blue Ball. It is Blue Ball.
It is Blue Ball. Okay, yeah.
Just Google it. Yeah, there's a bunch of those weird
Honeybrook,
little towns in
the
Pennsylvania.
gateway to Blue Ball.
There's a lot of good. There's a big smorgasbord in Morgantown that we used to go to all the time. Like you go there on your birthday, get a free smorgasbord. All you can eat.
So when you lived there, how many birthdays a year did you have, Casey?
I told you I never lived there.
He never actually lived. His parents lived there. He's been very clear about this. It's clearly a touchy subject.
I lived in Temple, Pennsylvania, where all the mushroom farms are.
Actual like mushrooms or like psychedelic mushrooms or like mushrooms?
Well, probably, but no.
Okay.
Like Giorgio mushrooms.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're all grown in
mushroom
Temple.
capital of the Northeast.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, Honeybrook is it's great because it's it's a lot of bored, disaffected kids, which is that's money on the table for punk rock. I mean, that is your bread and butter when you are on the road. You're gonna have a lot better luck playing Honeybrook than you are a couple of nights later playing Baltimore. Which I don't remember going. We went over okay, but we made no money, and parking was incredibly expensive, and it was a whole thing. So yeah, I consider myself very lucky to have visited that town.
Yeah, I remember in your book you said you were still spending Honeybrook money by the end of the tour. Like
we were.
That's where you made all your money.
We were still spending that sweet Honeybrook cheddar. They probably do make cheddar in Honeybrook. I shouldn't say that. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually make cheddar. Yeah. Anyway.
So you grew up listening to punk, right? Kind of was like your getaway, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to meet someone who really genuinely grew up. I got into it when I was about 14, right before I left junior high. I got into the Ramones and then just couldn't get enough of the stuff. And I was just going around buying records by punk bands I'd heard of. And if they had funny song titles, I just dove right in. And I was mostly very, very lucky with that. There were a couple times where I picked up a 7-inch by the Vatican Commandos, and I'm like, oh, these guys don't quite live up to the promise of their name. But I got into the Dickies that way, and DOA, Toy Dolls, so many good bands just because they had some funny song titles.
That was that. Tell us that story about the Dickies at Halloween 1987. That's a good story with meeting Stan Lee for the first time.
I went to go see. It was the second or third time I'd seen the Dickies, and they were playing Halloween night in New York City with a couple of local bands, Hardcore Legends, Murphy's Law, and Underdog, I believe, were also on the bill. Dickies were headlining, and to back up real quick, my mom worked sort of on the outskirts of publishing. So she did sort of what they used to call typesetting, but they were already doing it on computers, like big hulky desktop things. And my ticket that I got had Murphy's Law in a really big typeface. And I would have said typeface because, again, my mom worked in publishing, and the Dickies were in a smaller typeface. And I took umbrage at that. I was offended on behalf of the Dickies. So I'm standing in line with a couple of friends, and we're waiting to get into Irving Plaza, which is still there. A terrific old ballroom on like 15th Street on the east side near Union Square. Great venue. Saw a bunch of great shows there. And we're standing in line, and I'm just really struck by the fact that Murphy's Law, who have only been around for a couple of years, are not closing the show, are in a bigger typeface than the Dickies. And who comes down the street but Stan Lee, the guitarist from the Dickies, who I recognize from album covers. And there's something about punk rock that makes you think you can talk to these people in a way you can't talk to actual quote unquote rock stars. There's just something about the way punk is structured. The smaller venues, the fact that they actually, the Dickies will famously read their fan mail as their very own song says. And I just felt like, I could just call out to Stan. I go, "Hey, Stan." He goes, "Yeah, man." He walks over to me, and I go, "What's the deal? Why is your name in a smaller typeface on the ticket?" And he's like, "Let me see that." He grabs my ticket and he's looking at it and goes, "Well, that's fucked up. We're headlining. We should actually be in a larger thing." "I'm going to be right back." And he takes off with my ticket. And then he dashes back real quick. Goes, "Oh, here, collateral." And he hands me these novelty glasses, these shades that have crazy lights around them. And then takes off. And my friends are like, "John, you're a fucking idiot. You just lost your ticket. You just gave your ticket away to someone who was ostensibly a fucking stranger, by the way."
So your friends didn't know that it was Stan Lee?
They didn't recognize him. No, they could tell from my reaction. I was like, "This is Stan
Sure.
from the Dickies." Like, "This is Stan from the Dickies. This is gonna be okay. He's gonna, and they're also thinking like, "Oh, he's a fucking, he's in the band. He's gonna forget about us. He's gonna fucking ditch you entirely." And I'm there, and my heart starts to sink too, because like this means if I don't have my ticket, my friends are gonna go into the show, and I'm gonna like take the saddest subway ride back up to my mom's apartment. This is gonna be a colossal fucking bummer. Like 15 minutes later, Stan Lee comes back out, hands me my ticket, and goes, "Thank you so much, man. They gave us like $200 as sort of a settlement. They feel really bad about it. Thanks so much for pointing this out. I appreciate it." And I said, "My friend said you weren't going to come back." And he goes, "What? And lose these?" And he takes his novelty sunglasses back. And I was like, "Well, I'll see you in there, man. Thanks." And then I, of course, turned on my friends instantly. I was not gracious in victory by any stretch. I was like, "You fucking assholes! I told you he was going to come back." And I had, because of punk rock karaoke, the good fortune to tell Stan that story, and he doesn't remember me, but he remembers the $150-200 or so. He's in my phone now. We chat occasionally. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, that was a huge thing for me on a couple of fronts. Aside from just being like a fun anecdote, it gave me that real sense of the line between audience and performer in punk rock is very porous.
Oh yeah, that's I can confirm that because I've played hacky sack with GBH and drank on their tour bus with them. There's no line. You're just doing things.
You're just hanging out. A friend of mine walked up to Dag Nasty one time and said, "I would like to interview you." And they were like, "We probably better do it in the van." And next thing I know, we're all in the van with Dag Nasty. Shortly thereafter, like a few months after that 1987 Halloween show. But yeah, and I think when it became time for me to kind of switch my career around and decide in my late 20s that I wanted to give acting a try, I think there was a part of me that thought, on some subconscious level, remembered like, "No, just get up and do it. Just, there's no difference between the guy on stage and you. Just get up there and do it." And that was, that was huge.
So does the acting community are they the same way that punk rock is? Like you just go in and everything's cool like that? Or is there like layers to it?
No, but there's layers and there's gatekeepers all over the place, but there's still opportunities to DIY shit. There's still like, I mentioned earlier that I had done a one-person show about my time in the band and sort of how I was paying for the band by working at these horrible corporate jobs doing untold damage to the earth. And by writing that show, that got me a manager, which got me an agent, and that got me auditions, and then that turned into jobs. So there was yes, show business can be super, super corporate, but I did kind of DIY my way into it anyway. And I think it's even happening more and more, for better or for worse, people are being discovered on YouTube and TikTok and such like that. And we can talk about whether that is a real meritocracy or not, but there is a DIY spirit that is running through certain corners of show business, which is kind of refreshing and feels like home. It's a quick jump from there to, it's cheaper than pressing your own 7-inch. Back me up, Rhubarb.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
right?
that actually reminds me of, it just popped in my head. The little punk rock interviewer kid was just in Terrifier 2.
Oh, he was? I got to see that movie. I hear it's so fucked up.
It's fucked up. It's real fucked up. But I kept trying to figure out who he was because he's older now.
Oh, hilarious.
And I kept looking at him like, I know who that is. Who the fuck is that kid? And then I figured it out, and I was like, it's the little punk rock interview kid. I was like,
That's
son
fantastic.
of a bitch.
That is great.
Back in the day, man, we'd all be making 7 inches, and you'd have to, we'd all had minimum wage jobs, and you're just trying to figure out how to put anything out, like 200 copies of a 7-inch. And now you can go on YouTube, release crap like even what we're doing right now. This had been impossible in the 80s and early 90s.
How would and it's also interesting too, because the whole world of podcasting has created a talk show minor league, which is great, because there was a time when there was absolutely nothing or there was Carson.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was, there was like a tiny little zine, or you somehow managed to get on Letterman or something. And podcasts have created this wonderful farm system of talk shows for people to promote their, let's say you had a memoir that had the misfortune to come out the same week as Matthew Perry's, hypothetically speaking. and you still needed to promote your book one way or the other. And the podcast world has made that possible. It's great.
Man, you are quick.
Imagine such a situation.
God damn, you're quick with that shit, man. That's awesome.
I have one more thing to say about the punk scene and all that before we move on, unless Ray has anything for you after that.
Now, I'm going to stop because I could talk about punk rock for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I'm sure we need to get to some other things. So
I see us going in that direction, yeah.
Well, one line that really stood out to me in your book was this: it has often been said that punks are nice people pretending to be bad people, and hippies are bad people pretending to be nice people. I can't speak for punks on this, but I kind of did a short run with Phil and Friends back in the, I don't know, early 2000s. Which
you followed them?
Yeah, quite a bit, on the East Coast, and you're 100% right. I've met a fucking shitload of asshole fucking hippies.
They're the best of them are just chronically irresponsible, and then the worst of them will absolutely fuck your girlfriend. They are. It is astonishing how often that has been proven right. There's another amazing line. Well, first I went to college at Ithaca College, which is this very sweet, very crunchy little town in central New York. And it's very, very hippie. And I met a lot of hippies who were incredibly unreliable people. And then years later, there's a line on 30 Rock where Jack says, he's talking about something else. He goes, it's a universal rule, never follow a hippie to a second location. I was like, oh my God, that's all I did. All I did at Ithaca was follow hippies to a second location that was not there.
Yeah, man. It's I've gone to so many festivals, and I've seen the behind the scenes of hippie people, man. They're some of them are really shady people.
They're shady people. Yeah, they can be, and it's all peace and love and coexist. And I don't know. You stole my weed. Why would you? Come on, man. You don't need money for rent.
I'll never forget this. I was at a festival. I think it was in Hunter Mountain, New York, or it might have been in West Virginia. I'm not sure, but the location doesn't matter. It was like
they look vaguely similar. They look. I've been to both. I've been to upstate New York and I've been to West Virginia, and there's similar rolling hills. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this was like I was all fucked up, as well as just about everyone else there. And I'm walking through, and there's not a ton of people around, and it's pitch black. And there's just this guy standing there with this sign, and he's like, verbally assault me for $5. Like he's just begging for money. Like he just wanted people to insult him for money.
Oh my God. Well, okay. I mean, is that, okay, great. That's going to give you a really shitty worldview. But I mean, is that he's offering a service, is that better or worse than the guys who just need a miracle ticket, man?
Yeah.
No, I speak. I'm not fluent, but I'm conversant in hippie. I can.
Yeah.
You know this, right?
Yeah. The one finger up in the air, one finger up in the parking lot. One ticket, man.
I just need one. Get the fuck away from me. All right. Let's move on now. Let's talk about your dad a little bit.
Okay.
First of all, what is a page?
Oh, yeah. So my father had a few jobs in his life, and the only job he really loved was in the business he did not want me to go into. My father was a page in the NBC building in the early 1960s, and a page is sort of a gopher. It is, Scooter on the Muppet Show. Scooter's a page.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair, right? And the more famous example is Kenneth on 30 Rock.
30 Rock.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, Kenneth was actually in the NBC page program, and they give tours and they escort guests to their rooms, and they deal with very, very small security issues. And the more famous guests, they're the ones who make sure that the deli tray is sitting there and is covered and there's no flies on it. They just sort of are a jack of all trades, and it has led people to writing gigs and acting gigs and executive gigs. There's a lot of people who've come out of the NBC page. John Krasinski started out as an NBC page, actually. But my dad, apparently, as much as he enjoyed the gig, just felt like, as the title says, show business was no job for a man. And he went into the paper industry, which he hated for 20 plus years until they fired his ass. But yeah, it was, I actually did an interview while I was in New York a couple weeks ago promoting the book, a couple floors away from where my father had worked at 30 Rock. He'd been a page focused on Studio 6A, which is where The Tonight Show was and now is again. But this was during the Jack Parr years between, if you know your TV history, between Steve Allen and Johnny Carson.
So that was in obviously New York City. They moved to Ohio after that, right?
Yeah, they did a couple years, or like a year. No, I think 2 years in a little town that I've never heard of outside of the context of my parents, called Coshocton, Ohio.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Do you? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ray, you're in
Yeah, I bleed and die with Ohio here. That's my state there. Yeah, Coshocton's down south. There is nothing in Coshocton.
There's fucking nothing except this paper plant where my dad was working for a while, in an administrative position, and he was there for 2 years. And again, Coshocton. The only time I've ever heard of Coshocton is when my parents mentioned it.
And that's probably still the only thing there. That and meth heads. That's it.
Yeah. Although there was, and I just Googled them while I was writing the book, there is a small community theater that my parents were briefly involved with. And it was, as far as I know, the last time they ever got up on a stage was doing, I think this is probably where you were leading me, Ray. But as far
that's
as
what I was trying to do. Trying to do
that. There was they were involved backstage, and they were just about to actually do roles on stage. And they told me that they were really excited about it. And then my dad got called back to New York, And I think it was a dream deferred. My father was a massive fan of TV and theater and film, and he had a great voice, and he was, he wasn't like a leading man, but he was a good looking guy. He's a handsome guy, and dark black hair, piercing blue eyes. He was a striking fellow. And he was quick. He had a meanness to his humor, but again, that's his generation. I think there was a big part of him that really wished he'd given acting a try. And I think when he didn't, and when his son did, and when his son got a footing, I think that was hard for him. Which is
actually, I have in my notes here. Father jealous. There's a part in your book where he actually seems a little jealous about it.
He cops to it. He uses that word. Yeah, it was very strange, and it was a very weird thing to hear from your father, but he was sort of increasingly dismissive of the early successes I had as an actor. And these were not enormous things, but like a commercial here, a small, 3-line film role there, nothing crazy. This was not overnight success by any stretch, but I was getting a footing, and I kind of called him out. It's like, you just seem really dismissive about the stuff I'm doing. And it's, I don't need to be coddled, but it's weird how dismissive you are. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I'm just jealous. And I took a mental note to never say that to my kids. And thus far haven't. They're young still, though. They could absolutely lap my career at some point. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're both.
And when they do, I'll be fine with it.
They're both
your interview woman.
They're both getting into the arts as well, right?
Yeah. Nola's definitely got the acting bug, but she's grounded though. She's got, again, her, she sees her father have incredible amounts of downtime, and she, it's not like she's not Tom Hanks's kid, she's like her, pardon? Either one. My point is, it's not a question of which kid I'm talking about. I'm not talking about either Chet or Colin. That's not the point. It's the phenomenology of watching your dad sit around a lot, which your daughter does. Holy shit. Look at that. Why don't you have a mic? Oh, that's right. It's not your fucking interview. Good Lord, woman.
You don't want a Chet. You want a Colin.
I know you want a Colin. I know you absolutely want a Colin. By all means, you want a Colin. But you don't think Colin has a skewed perspective on this business? He's a great actor, and he's a nice guy. Thank God. Super nice guy. I've met him. Super nice guy. But you don't think he would have to have a skewed... His dad is the only man... No, one of two men to win 2 consecutive Oscars in history. You're telling me that guy doesn't have a slightly skewed perspective of the ups and downs of this business? If he had been born during like that lull after Bosom Buddies, I'd say, okay, this guy knows what's up. But he wasn't. He's too young.
That's like being one of the guys in Metallica's kid and being a musician, which a couple of them are. It's like, where you going with that, buddy?
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's not going to be all soccer stadiums, kid.
No.
Precisely.
Yep.
You want a whole podcast about Chet, like a serial type podcast where we just talk about Chet Hanks and just kind of try to figure out what happened there? This is horrible. I've never met the guy. He's probably perfectly nice. I don't know him. I'm just trying to give everybody I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is a directional mic. You're not really as on this mic as you think you are. This is like right here. So it just sounds like I'm just screaming into an empty room, kind of. I sound crazier than usual. Gentlemen, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
all good, brother.
Yeah, I actually think that's comedy gold right there, brother.
They think it's comedy gold.
Before we get into you meeting your wife, the one that you were just having that lovely conversation with, so did you ever ask your dad, like, they moved from whatever town that was in Ohio where they were about to get on stage for the first time, where that was like the only theater in town, and then they moved back to New York City where there is an abundance of theaters. Did you ever ask him, like, why didn't you ever try your hand at it again?
I didn't ask him that, but I asked him at one point. He there was some. We knew a ton of actors because I grew up in Midtown West Side of Manhattan, which is the theater district, and we knew a lot of actors who did theater and who had a lot of day jobs and were struggling, which is one of the reasons it took me so long to get into the business, because it was like, it's scary out there. It's really unreliable, you know. And I remember one of his friends suggesting that he should look into getting a voiceover agent, or the friend was like, Bruce, I can introduce you to my voiceover agent. And I was like, Dad, you should do that. You've got a great voice. You should absolutely do that. And he's like, it just doesn't sound like something I'd be good at. And he just immediately went to the place of defeat and like, I'm going to be rejected, so why bother? And again, he also harbored this idea that gave me the title of the book, which is that acting is no job for a man, which is a quote he attributed to Spencer Tracy, who, watch this full circle moment, is the other actor who won 2 consecutive Oscars besides Tom Hanks. But I think there was just a lot of fear that he would never have admitted to. But look, you know, it can be a very humbling business, you know, and if you're a proud man, it's going to take, you're going to eat a lot of shit in this business, you know, and there's going to be times where things are going really well. And there's going to be a lot of times where they're just not interested, or they went a different way, or you're too old, or you're too young, or you're too whatever. And it's hard not to take that personally. But the people who last into their 50s, as I have learned not to take it personally.
Yeah. So he was probably afraid of rejection, right? And just comfortable at a steady thing, right?
Yeah, I think he felt he needed that steadiness, even though I think he kind of resented it.
Sure.
And you know what? I misspoke, actually. I said that they fired him from the paper industry. They didn't fire him. And this is clarified in the book. Somebody younger got promoted past him, and my father, in a fit of ego and umbrage, quit. But he was around my age at the time, and throwing yourself into the corporate job market when you're 50 is different than throwing yourself into the audition world when you're 50. You know, they're always looking for you know, they're always going to need, you know, tight ass principals or mean spirited executives, you know, and that's my bread and butter these days. So come on down, you know, I'd love to do it. You need a creepy authority figure? Hi there. Look no further. But my father had a bachelor's degree, no graduate degree, and 20 years in sales, but never quite got his footing again. And I think it was a really scary and frankly humiliating time for him, you know. And I watched that happen, and I watched my mom's business kind of go under, and I had to loan her money. And it was just a real lesson of, you might as well at least try to do what you want to do, because, you know, any business is going to be hard. So you might as well find the thing that brings you joy and that to which you can add value, and do that. And here we are.
Yeah. You got your start a lot different than a lot of the other actors and people that we've talked to on this show. Mostly people get their start in stage acting, but you've never really done that, right? Like,
no,
other than like you've done like the UCB and stuff, like the improv stuff, right?
I did not have a theater background when I came into acting. I started taking improv classes. I joined, my friends had a sketch group and they asked me to join. So I did that for a few years, and that is how I learned. I mean, I'd already been in a band for a couple of years, and I taught high school for a year. So I had gotten over a lot of stage fright stuff. So that was never a huge issue. I mean, I'm not like some sort of, you know, Buddha who just floats onto the stage. I still get antsy and butterflies, but I don't have anything that really dismantles me the way some people who come into the business do. But I had a lot of improv and a lot of sketch comedy, and I tried stand up a couple times just to kind of say that I had done it. But yeah, I was in my late 40s before I did a full run of a professional play. Yeah. I kind of worked a little bit backwards. I don't tell a ton of people that, although I guess it's out and about now. But I had a weird sense of when I started booking TV work and was actually a series regular on an NBC show, I didn't tell anyone that I had never done a play because I had this weird sense of like survivor guilt or something, because there's people out there with MFAs, people who played Hamlet when they were 20, people who played King Lear when they were 23 in grad school. And I'm like, hi, I did the make-em-ups for a couple years and now I have a trailer, and I am sympathetic to the people who might resent that, and I honor that but yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I wrote the book is to sort of prove that there is no one true path to this stuff. There's a lot of different ways to find yourself in this business and find your voice. I don't do theater necessarily because I no longer do theater because I feel like I have to. It's something that's missing. I do theater because it's really fun. It's really, really fun because it's different every night, no matter what you're doing. I did a Neil Simon play a couple years ago, and it was just, every audience was completely different, and it was really, really interesting and fun.
Cool. Have you done Shakespeare yet? I know you're
just in class.
Always just in class.
Just in
All
class.
right,
I'm afraid I've never done a full production. I know. Thanks, Dad. Nice to hear from you. Glad to know I can still disappoint you after all this time.
How much time do you have,
this
John?
Is straight gin. I got another another 15.
I know you're a liar because you're sober. So
no, damn.
All right,
yeah, I got another 15. Let's do it.
All right. Well, we have a bunch of fan questions. Did I miss anything, Ray? I have some more stuff. Maybe we'll have to have you back again sometime.
I'd love to come back at some point. I saw you put out an APB on Reddit, which was fascinating. I'd love to know what horrible questions were asked from. I suppose it's not like checking 4chan for questions, but I'm curious, regardless, what came up.
Yeah. Did I miss anything, Ray, that you want to?
You know what? No, let's pass on the TV show that he happened to be on. It was like a big show, but let's just brush that to the side and go to fan questions.
Well, a lot of the fan questions go there. So
that takes care of that then.
I also just want to say you are not the John Ross in Grimcuddy. I watched that entire movie looking for you, and
I don't know why I'm credited in that. I don't know why I'm credited in that movie. I'm credited as podcast host.
I was like, where in the fuck is the podcaster in that?
I have no idea why I'm in that. It's really strange. Yeah,
Well, the writer's name is John Ross.
I saw that, and I'm wondering if it's just some weird IMDb snafu. But yeah, I'm not in that film. How is it?
It's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry that you watched an okay movie all the way through.
I watched Pet that you were in. That was good.
Pet's a solid horror.
Yeah,
Pet's
that was
a solid
good.
horror movie. Yeah. Some good twists. Great work from Jeanette McCurdy. That's a fun ride. I like Pet a lot. I'm happy to be in Pet.
All right, fan questions. Let's see. Notiver's Ilf Gaming would like to know, how was your experience as the character Barry Kripke, and how did you do the speech impediment for it?
The origin story of the speech impediment is in the book. It was not in the audition sides. It was an idea that popped into their head while I was auditioning, and they suggested I do. They literally said a subtle liquid L like Tom Brokaw does, and I said sure, and started talking like Elmer Fudd and got the job. The trick, if you're really asking how, if it's a real mechanical question, the trick is that your center of gravity goes to the front of your mouth. Everything comes up front here, and you don't. So your R's and your L's are interchangeable at that point because everything is coming up to the front of your mouth. And I'm not great with dialects or accents or anything like that, but if I can figure out the actual physicality of what my mouth is supposed to be doing, then it goes okay. See, that's exhausting. I'm so out of practice.
Well, that's the next question here. How hard? Curls Cross would like to know, how hard was keeping up the lisp consistently?
It is not a lisp. It is a rhoticism. I had several. I never called it a lisp. I don't call it a lisp because I myself have a little bit of a sibilant S, so I'm careful about that. Shortly after the character debuted, a speech pathologist called it a rhoticism. I've also heard it called a gliding L. It was I had the great thing about doing a multicam sitcom like that is that you basically rehearsed it like a play. You did 4 days of rehearsal and then you shot on the 5th night. So I had a whole week to ramp up to it and get used to it. Now, once in a great while, somebody would run out during at the end of a scene and go, we actually heard an R on the word recess. Can we go again? Just that line. We're just gonna do a wild line so John can get recess, and I do that, and we'd move on. But yeah, I mean, it was weird because I would sometimes go months between appearances on the show. So I would have to kind of get back into the groove of things. But the one really interesting thing about the speech impediment was how I saved it for like, I showed up and did it every day. But when I was working on it at home, when I was working on my dialogue at home, I did it without the speech impediment first, just to hear it unfettered, unfiltered, as it were, and just make sure the jokes are there. The jokes make sense. The attitude is there. Kripke was kind of a dick. He was a huge dick. There was some predatory behavior he did on that show. Send a dick pic to Mayim Bialik's character. It's ghastly. Horrific character. Don't do that at home. But I would work on the dialogue without the speech impediment, so that the speech impediment wasn't the whole shtick, So that was just sort of the gravy on top of the meat that was the dialogue. And that was good because that helped me like figure out the comedic beats and make sure that everything else was good. So it wasn't just these guys making fun of this guy with a speech impediment, which I wouldn't have been comfortable with. The other thing that is important to say, and if somebody asks this question, I wouldn't be surprised because I get this question a lot, so I'll head it off at the pass. The cool thing about Kripke was that as much as he was a prick, he was never a loser. He was kind of an alpha. There were a lot of like little contests throughout the show, throughout the 11 years that I did the show, and he won most of them. And he had a swagger to him that John doesn't have in real life that I always thought was kind of interesting. So what kept him from being just the butt of a joke was the fact that he was a winner. He was never a victim. And I think that made the character interesting and appealing. I hope.
So we talked to someone last week that was on Fuller House. That was also shot in front of a studio audience. Same way it was is for Big Bang Theory. Is everything shot in order? And
yeah. There's a couple of times if there's something really complicated or there's a montage where there'd just be a lot of quick cuts. They will shoot that the day before and then show it to the audience and record the audience's laughter. But for the most part, for a multicam, you shoot it in front of an audience in sequence. Less so now, post-COVID, things are still kind of up in the air as to how they're doing it. I think the Connors are back to a studio audience. I just did that show Neighbors where they had a very small audience. United States of Al, you were just trying to make the crew laugh. That was all. Just try to crack up the crew, and we'll record that. So it's different. But before COVID, it was sort of an industry standard that you shot it in sequence in front of an audience. Yeah.
Do you like doing that? Do you like doing that in front of a live audience?
I do. It's theater with a safety net, because if you are getting that instant feedback from a joke, and then if you fuck up, as long as you don't do it too often, but if you fuck up occasionally, the audience sees a blooper and they love seeing a blooper. Who doesn't like to see a blooper? Sure. Jim Parsons, who played Sheldon, was such a machine. He was so good at just mountains of dialogue, a lot of which he did not understand. He's not a science guy. He's got an MFA from San Diego. He is not a science guy by any stretch. Theater MFA all the way. And he would say that he's like, oh yeah, I'm learning this like the way ABBA learned their English lyrics. It's just phonetic. I'm just trying to get through it. And he would do it, masterfully. Once in a while, he'd fuck up. And it was great for the audience to see that, like, oh my God, Superman actually does have a kryptonite. Look at this. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But it's fun. And then what's really exciting, here's the dirty little secret, is when a joke tanks and they frantically write a new joke and give that to you, and you have to just they go, here's your new joke. And you just say it back to them like, okay, we're going to shoot.
Just like that.
That's a high that's pretty hard to beat, that's a nice little rush of adrenaline. And when that second joke works, oh my God, you've saved the day. The writers are happy. The audience is happy. There's a lot of dopamine that goes coursing for something like that. Yeah. Multicam is fun to do.
Very cool. All right, let's see. Life by 5059. I've always wondered about Kripke's personal life. Did he have a girlfriend, friends, family, etc.?
That's a really good question. I did too. In the scripts, there was frequent references to him paying for sex workers. But I like to think that he had, at the very least, some sort of online gaming community where he was accepted and loved. And he was very abrasive, but he seemed very comfortable in his own skin. And I don't think he necessarily minded being alone all the time. So the question is, I don't think so, but I think it's okay.
Okay. Miss Angela 66. Do you know if there were any Kripke storylines that got squashed?
Yeah, I do actually. There was one where they were going to keep me off the show for like a year, which was not unheard of. Sometimes I think there was one time I went like a full 12 months without being on the show. But I was going to come back with the speech impediment completely gone and just overcompensating everything, every R and L, just hitting it really hard. Hello, Sheldon Cooper. But I don't think they were like, I was like, so what happens then to him personally? Like, does he become a nice guy? Is he more of a dick now that he doesn't have the speech impediment? Where do we go with that? And they never quite panned that out. But that, as far as I know, that was the one that came the closest to not being used. And I think they were kicking around. Oh, there's one episode where I was clearly going to ask out Mayim's character, and like the audience turned on me. The audience was not fucking having it at all. And you could tell like, the people have spoken. They don't want this storyline. And it was one of those moments where they like, we got to come in. We got to give you a new joke because you're no longer asking Amy out. That's not fucking happening. And it was the episode with the fencing in it. I don't remember what the jokes were, but I remember I thought it was really funny. I said something kind of crass about my intentions with Amy. The audience was like, no. And then I got a much more vanilla joke for the next take. So that was interesting.
Nice.
All right. Hey, Casey, I think we're getting close here, buddy. I think we're getting close to the time here.
I have two more.
All
Dunn
right.
Dawson, what was your favorite Kripke storyline?
It's not going to be an answer you want to hear. People want to hear that. No, seriously, because there were a few like real set pieces. There is the episode where I teach them fencing. There's an episode where Sheldon and I play basketball together, and it goes as exactly how you think it might. There's an episode where the only thing I do in the entire episode, I'm on screen for 1 minute of the show's 22 minutes, and I just scream at Siri, who can't understand what I'm saying. And it's like 60 seconds of me, and that's the only thing I do in the episode. But my favorite episode, honest to God, is one where it's discovered that Cooper and I are working on the same research, and our research overlaps, and we have to work together. And we spend the whole episode in his office, and it was just Jim and I. And honest to goodness, I'm not just saying this. Jim is a wonderful actor. He's giving. He's generous. He changes things from take to take. He's malleable and fun. And just to have like a no frills one-on-one scene with him was a real treat. I think it's called the Kripke Cooper inversion. It has Kripke's name in the title. I can't remember the name of the episode, but that one, joke for joke and moment for moment, that's my favorite Big Bang episode of the ones I'm in.
Very cool. All right, I have one more thing to say here. Princess Sparkles 87 would like to hear about your audition and how you got the role, but I'm going to say go buy the book because it's in the book. And then the Moat Callan would like to know, why do you look so freaking hot in the picture that Deluxe Edition posted on their Instagram page? It was the picture that your publicist sent us.
Because a great comedian who's also a photographer named Steve Agee took that photo, and the light was great. And I like to think I am growing just a dash more distinguished as I plummet through middle age. But I thank you very much for that lovely comment. But yeah, Steve Agee for your headshot needs in the greater LA area.
Very
you
cool,
guys know
man.
Steve Agee? You should have Steve Agee on. He was on Peacemaker. He's John O'Connor on
Yes,
Peacemaker.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would love to talk to him.
Yeah, I've reached out. No, I've
Yeah.
never heard back. So maybe this will be the little boost.
I
that we needed.
actually,
Let me grease those wheels.
yeah, I just finished watching the first season of Peacemaker for like the 6th time last week. I mean, I love
really?
that show.
Yeah.
Oh man,
It's great, and he's great on it. He's doing career best work on that show.
Oh,
It's,
absolutely.
he's fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah.
Really good, man. John, thank you so much, man, for your time. Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find the book, all that good stuff.
The book is in your better bookstores. And you can find me on Instagram at John Ross Bowie. I think this was really comprehensive. I know we had to cut it a little short. I think this was very comprehensive. I think we covered a lot of ground, guys.
Yeah, man. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
absolutely.
I have more notes, so definitely anytime you want to come back, we'd love to have you, man.
I'll come back.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah, write another book and come back.
Okay, deal. I'm on it.
Nice.
We'll talk about Heathers next time.
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely.
Yeah, all Heathers all the time. I'm in.
All right, man. Thank you, John.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.